Okay, shalom. So we're here. We're mastering life, self-mastery. And we said really that most people have no self-mastery. They have no self-control. And they're being controlled by the external world. Literally by what people say to them. Someone could say something not nice to you right now, and you get really angry and upset, or, well, if you had arrogance, you get angry and upset and fight, and if you had low self-esteem, you just get very upset. Someone says something nice to you, you feel good about yourself. If your team wins, you feel great. If your team lost, you feel bad. If the weather's good, how you woke up, how much sleep you got, what was for breakfast. If there's something special for breakfast, and there was like pancakes, which is just gluten and sugar anyway, but they didn't leave you any pancakes, you just get really upset and like, oh, they're just not thinking about anyone else but themselves. They didn't leave you any pancakes, and decisions and everything. Basically, you're one constant victim to the external world. Brilliant. And how your circumstances are going, that's basically going to dictate your mood. Unless you have a little bit of self-control, a little bit of saying, you know what, I'm not going to be emotionally detached from the external world, but I'm not going to let it dictate and define me. I'm going to engage in it in a conscious and healthy way. Rather than reacting, I'm going to respond. Responding is different from reacting. Reacting is, you say something, I get angry. Responding is, I'm probably going to take a breath and say, okay, what would the greatest me do in this situation? If I was being the top me right now, what would I say in reply? What would I do? So you've really got to start training yourself to be able to be very, very present, to be able to choose how you respond to the world around you. We said that really it takes clarity of goal, clarity of vision. I'm not just floating around life trying to juggle lots of different parts of my life. And I got my health, and my relationships, and my finances, and my Jewish growth, and where am I going to live, and my decisions. Most people are just juggling separate parts of their lives and doing better or worse. Judaism says no. You have to have one very, very straight, focused, clear goal in life. And then everything else, your finances and your relationships and your health and stuff, you just ask yourself, well, how is that plugging me into my goal? Is it taking me towards that or not? If it's challenging, how can I use that challenge to come closer to my goal? If it's amazing, how can I use that pleasant experience to have gratitude and consciousness and say, so we now have a very, very, very clear goal. And our goal is self-actualization. Our goal is to become the greatest person we can become. That's it. That's all we're doing in life. Nothing else. All your other goals, I'd like to have a nice marriage, and I'd like to have a good job, and I'd like to do things. Those are very important and wonderful goals. You should all have them. But they're really just sub-goals of your real goal, which is self-actualization. And the more you self-actualize, the better your marriage will be. And the more you self-actualize, the more conscious and meaningful your job will probably be. And the more you self-actualize, the less you'll be disturbed by what other people think of you and stuff going on around you. So then you become, that's called self-mastery. I'm a master of myself. I'm a master of my thought, speech, and action. I'm deciding how to think, speak, and act given any situation. What's the right thing to do? Self-actualization, we said, is then just two things: improve yourself, improve the world, which is character traits and impact. Improve your character traits, make the world a better place. And then we said, what is meaning? What makes something meaningful? If it's taking you towards that goal, it's meaningful, and if it's not, it's not. So if what you are engaged in is making you a better, healthier, kinder, stronger, more resilient, compassionate, non-judgmental person, that's called meaningful. That's taking you towards your goal. And if it's not meaningful. That's basically where we came up to now. So then we said, are you living, did we do the whole values class? What are you valuing? What do you value? What do you spend your money on, your time? So we did that. We said, if you say I value my health, well, what are you eating? What are you doing with your time? And if it doesn't match, then what you're valuing, your time and money and effort, isn't taking you towards your value, you'll start moving in the right direction. And then we said you really have one power, the power of Ratzon. How much do you want it? How much do you want to be a great person? Then we said there are three ways to know how much you want something. How much you think about it, how much effort you're willing to put in to get it, how much you pray for it. That's it. So now, are you now almost obsessed, not in a neurotic weird way, about reaching your potential? not with pressure and guilt and fear and comparing to other people, but I'm here just like the person who wants to win the gold medal in the Olympic Games says, I am here this is my dream, I'm going to do that. They're obsessed with it, that's their whole life. So they're falling asleep thinking about it, they're waking up thinking about it. Once they realize, hold on, I'm doing things that aren't taking me towards that goal, they stop it, I don't want that. So now we have self-control, choosing what I'm doing. So now we're moving on. Improving your character traits. We said it's the key to everything you want in life. It's the key to happiness, because if you had less jealousy, doubt, fear, anxiety, guilt, hatred, low self-esteem, arrogance, you'd just be a much happier person. It's the key to good relationships, because if you have really good character traits, then you'll have good friends, and you'll be a good husband, and you'll be a good father. It's the key to self-esteem, because I feel good about myself, because I'm being kinder and nicer. It's really the key to everything in your life, character. Improving your character traits. However, there are a few things we have to know before you start working on your character traits. Number one is that you have to feel good about yourself. If you don't feel good about yourself in general, and then you say, well, I've got to work on this and I've got to work on this, it's just very, very heavy. So I'm going to give you a whole class, not today though, on how to build up healthy self-esteem. Because healthy self-esteem is the foundational key to everything else in your life. You have healthy self-worth, healthy self-esteem, you don't put other people down. Even if they put you down, you don't put them down back. You don't get offended so easily, you don't get upset. If you miss the bus, you just get the next bus. You don't have jealousy, you don't have fear, doubt. Everything, your whole life is basically based on a very, very healthy sense of self. So I'm going to give you a whole class on that, but just for now, I think you're all pretty good people. I really do. If you were to write down a list of your good points, sit down.
Shulchan.
Shulchan?
Echad.
Tikach. Simcha. Can you two move somewhere? Do you want to even take him the shulchan? Well, that one's easy, no? You'll give him that table that you were sitting at.
It's fine.
So, for now, if you were to write a list of all your good points and bad points, I pretty much guarantee, unless you're just a very negative, self-critical human being, which I meet too many of them, which is really sad, you're basically okay. You know, you made some mistakes, you could be better, but you're bringing us a shot.
You didn't pray for it?
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. This is exactly when we need it.
זה לא לגן בשביל הלכסד. סד לא זה?
אתה צריך לעשות את העבודה שלך. יש לי עבודה שלי, יש לך את העבודה שלך. מי אמר שהעבודה שלי יותר חשובה מהעבודה שלך? Who says my work is more important than his work? Well, I do actually. Thank you so much.
It's a good opportunity to practice what you're just talking about.
I actually arranged it. So, what we're going to do is work on our negative character traits with a few prerequisites. Number one, you've got to realize you're a pretty good person. You're actually okay. You make big mistakes and sometimes you're really not nice. You're a little bit arrogant and vain, or the opposite, you have a bit of low self-esteem and you put people down and you do lots of things you shouldn't do. But in general, they're not really openly malicious evil people. I don't think. I don't know you that well. Maybe one of you I don't know. But you're alright. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you have to see character traits do not define you. They're not actually who you are. So many people come up to me and they say things like, Rabbi, I hate myself. And I'm like, well, yeah, if I were you, I'd hate myself too. I don't say that, but I sometimes do think that. I never think that, because I love people unconditionally. I'm like, Rabbi, I hate myself. So I'm like, oh my goodness, why do you hate yourself? And they say, because I get really annoyed with my mum when she says that, and I'm really lazy, and I don't do what I'm meant to do, and all these things. And so I say to them, well, you're going to have children one day, and when your children are lazy, or they have bad character traits, are you going to hate your children for their bad character trait? And they're like, no. They're good, so if you're not going to hate your children for their bad character traits, don't hate yourself for your bad character traits. And then I say to them, now, why won't you hate your children for the bad character traits? And they'll say, because that's not who they are. They're good people. They just got bad character traits. I say, exactly, that's not who you are. So you have to see your bad, stop identifying as them, and see your bad character traits as just challenges that you have to overcome. It's literally like a disease. If you have a disease, then you have to take medicine and cure the disease. So anger, jealousy, doubt, fear, anxiety, hatred, they're just little diseases that you're dealing with. They're not who you are. Very, very important to stop identifying as negative character traits, or anything, by the way. I was just speaking to someone, and he's been clean for 3 years, but he's like, I am an alcoholic, and I've been clean for 3 years. And I said to him, you've done AA? And he's yeah, I love AA. And I said, I love AA as well, actually. 12 steps is amazing. It's all about Shem. It's amazing. There's just one thing I don't like about AA, and that's the first line they make you say. Oh, well, no, what? Is half of the first line they make you say. AA, they make you say, I am an alcoholic and I'm powerless to deal with it, whatever it is. And I said to him, you're not an alcoholic. You're a soul. You're a perfectly pure, connected, radiant being of divine light. And I'm totally powerless to, I'm okay with that after that. But as soon as you identify as something, then you're sticking it in there. Very, very hard to change. So people come up to me and say, I'm a high anxiety person. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a radiant, shining being of divine light who is struggling with anxious thoughts. And this is how you deal with it. So the very first thing is get some distance. Objectify negative character traits rather than identify with them. And then you can actually work with them. Now I can say, that's not who I am. And people, once you resign yourself, this is who I am, this is who I've always been, it's very, very hard to change. But when you don't resign yourself to that, or surrender to that, and say, this is a challenge that I'm going to work on, and spiritually speaking, we actually say those challenges are the exact ones you need in order to self-actualize. So you're going to get tested in that area again and again and again. We even say, on a very high level, maybe your soul came down into this world just to deal with anger. You're a perfect tzaddik in your last life, you were doing everything, but you just had this anger problem. So your soul comes back down again to try and clear up anger, and that's what you're here for. So we actually start seeing it as part of our journey. It's not b'di'evet. How do you say b'di'evet? It's not b'di'evet. Not ideal. It's not ideal. It's part of the game. So you've really got to start seeing your character traits as one of the reasons you're here. Many of our sages teach that really the purpose of life is to improve your character traits. They've been given to you and you're going to overcome them. So lots of people basically become a slave to their nature and their nurture. They say, I was just born, some people are born more chilled out, and some people are born more high anxiety. And some people are born with terrible childhoods and abuse, and some people are really spoiled. So you have your nature, how you were born, and you have your nurture, how you were raised. And you could then just say, well, this is who I am, and be a victim to that, and say, well, that's who I am. And it's not true. Because maybe your whole path of self-actualization is to not be a slave to your nature and nurture, to literally overcome it. Say, this doesn't define me at all, this is my challenge in life. Very, very important way to approach this. That doesn't mean you'll overcome it straight away, but it actually gives you something empowering, an empowering way to face these things. For other people though, you should never say, well, God just made me like this. God just made me an angry person, there's nothing I can do about it. You never take that excuse for yourself. For other people though, always give them that excuse. Not to abuse you, by the way. If someone gets angry, just say, oh, it's not their fault, that's how Hashem made it. So you always give that, judge other people favorably like that, but don't justify your not becoming great by saying, well, this is what happened. Because it's through this that you become great. Great? You understand that? So I'm going to give you 3 methods to work on your character traits. Just very quickly, how do you say character trait in Hebrew? Midah. So midot. What does midah actually mean? It means a measure.
Really? Wow.
Midah.
In Spanish, it's almost the same. Wow.
So limdod means to measure something, a midah. So this is how we see it. If you have one jealous thought a month, you have the trait of jealousy. Which say, not really. One jealous thought a month, really. It's not called jealousy. Now I don't know what the measure is, but if you have 10 jealous thoughts a day, you definitely do, and I think that's probably a scale. So you can know your character traits, become aware of your negative character traits by what are you dealing with all the time? Are you vain and arrogant, or do you have low self-esteem and you're really, really worried what other people think of you? Which is two ends of the same spectrum, by the way. Do you get angry quickly? Do you get impatient? Do you feel guilty a lot? Well, you just got to start becoming aware of what traits keep showing up. And how do traits show up? Through thoughts. That's it. If you have lots of jealous thoughts, that creates an experience called jealousy. Your thoughts create your emotions. So you've got to see, how often do I feel jealous? How often do I feel angry? How often do I feel confused? How often do I feel bad about myself? How often do I judge other people? How often do I be lazy? How often... Just start becoming aware of that. Very, very important, without then feeling bad about yourself. That's what I was saying before. If you write a list now of 5 bad character traits, don't feel bad about yourself. In fact, you should feel the opposite. You should say, amazing. I'm now aware of what's wrong with me. I'm such a selfish, anxious, arrogant. Hooray! But you don't say, I am these things. You are not those things. You say, I have jealousy. I have anger. Tengo hambre.
Yeah.
I have hunger.
In Hebrew, does it identify like the same way as English?
Yeah.
Like English identifies a lot with it.
I am hungry.
Yeah.
But really, you're not hungry. Your body is hungry. Unless you want to do mitzvah, then you say it. But in general, for you, don't say, you're going to write a list of bad character traits, don't say, I am a jealous person. I say, I have jealousy to deal with it. Just like you don't say, I am COVID. You say, I have COVID. I'm going to deal with it. And by the way, if you do, get out. Right? So fine, here are your 3 techniques for dealing with negative character traits. Having identified them, but not identified with them. Number 1, yes.
What sources is this all based on? Was this just based on?
General Orchid Tzadikim, lots of, I can send you lots of Torah sources. But it's obvious, actually. There's something in the Gemara that says, Lama likra sfarahu. I don't need the sources, obviously, personally. The Gemara says it often. Okay, so number 1, I call it create a state. Create a state. So this is how you do it. It's a little bit more complicated, and really the first 2 are very, very related to each other. Create a state is, you have to become very aware of that when that negative character trait is triggered. So you know when you see that person, you're going to want to kill them. You're going to get frustrated. Or you know when you go on social media and you see your ex-girlfriend, you know you're going to freak out. Or you know or when you're stuck in a traffic jam, you know what's going to happen. So basically, become aware of your triggers. Very, very aware of triggers. If you can avoid the trigger, by the way, try to leave earlier so you don't get stuck in a traffic jam. Don't look at your ex-girlfriend's social media. But there's no reason to challenge yourself by putting yourself in, it's like a recovering alcoholic going to a bar and saying, you know what, I'm going to a bar to just don't go to the bar. I think maybe there might be some point in your growth where you're like, in general you don't want to. But lots of your triggers you can't avoid. They're just going to happen. So what you've got to do is, this is how you create a state. Think about how you feel when you see that person and really try and bring up that feeling. I feel so frustrated. What am I thinking? How am I breathing? How am I standing? What do I want to do? And you really get yourself into that state that you get in. And then you do this. You create a new state, which is, think, if I was living at my highest conscious level, how would I be thinking, breathing, standing, What would I be doing in that moment? Start just playing it out. So you're sitting in that traffic jam, you're late for whatever it is, and you put on nice music. And you're saying to yourself, you know what? Getting frustrated, not going to change anything. I'm going to talk about emotional balance in a week from now. If you need to scream once, do that. But then think of yourself. Nice music, I'll get there when I get there. Feel how you're breathing now. So see, you're pictured in the car, you're in the traffic jam, you're playing Zushya music, you're breathing through your nose, you're loosening your neck and shoulders, and you're saying to yourself, you know what, I'll get there when I get there. It's going to be okay. Or put yourself in front of your boss, who you usually get really upset with, and see yourself, you're breathing, or your parents who are pressuring you. You've got to live in the real world, you know. So yeah, what are you saying to them? You're saying, thank you so much for caring about me, I really appreciate it. Now the more you can play it out, the more you can practice it, the more you're basically retuning your trigger. You're retuning your trigger. This is how martial arts work. This is how anything works. Tony Robbins used to do this with top athletes. I've forgotten who the athlete was, but he was a top guy, he won 100 meters, won everything. And then he went really bad for a year, came to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins said, look, tell me everything you did on the day you won the gold medal in the Olympic Games. What time did you wake up? What music did you listen to? What did you eat? And he said, just do that again. The same music, same this. And also you've got to, when the gun goes, what's going on? And he began to go again. That's called creating a state. So Tony Robbins is a good source for that. Yeah, create a state. This, by the way, you can do for your alarm in the morning. If you fall asleep dreading the alarm and say, oh, I can't get up, when the alarm goes off, it will mess you up. Fall asleep saying, I actually can't wait for the alarm to go off. Even if you have to give yourself an incentive. I'll get to have my coffee or whatever. Give yourself an incentive. You fall asleep looking forward to the alarm. It goes off, then you've now created that state. So that's the first thing. Imagine how you would be if you were being the best you. And it won't work all the time, but it will sometimes. The second method for improving your character traits is called the test. This does come from the Mitzilush Sharon. It's very, very similar, but it's just a general attitude to life. We see any of the triggers in our life as a test to make us great. That's an amazing approach to it, because then you're not a victim. Usually we take these bad, difficult circumstances in our life and we say it's not fair, I wish it wasn't like this, why me, all of that. Now you're doing the opposite. You're saying, I'm almost looking forward to these things because these are my opportunities to grow. I want that. If you play tennis and you play against someone who can't play at all, you're not growing. In fact, it's quite annoying sometimes to play with someone who can't play. If you play someone who's far too good for you, that's also annoying. You're not going to hit the ball. You've got to play someone who's a little bit better than you, who's pushing you. So you see life literally as life as a test. That's my attitude to life. So when I'm davening mincha, and the guy davening next to me is davening too loudly or whatever it is, rather than getting frustrated, I'm like, well, what's the test? What is that should be your first question that comes to mind when you get triggered by something. Take a deep breath. What's the test? What's being asked of me? How do I use it to become great? It's a very, very powerful tool to understand that everything's a test. Now this is, by the way, even if there's no God, an atheist should also approach life like this. But we believe, no, there is a God and there is a reason for that test. It's not just a random test. For an atheist, it's a random test, but it's a very positive attitude to say, well, it's a test and I'm going to use it to go stronger. For a Jew, that's one step, very good step, positive attitude towards my test. But we have a higher step, which is, no, this is exact, I'm going to embrace this. Not only am I going to deal with it, I'm actually going to embrace this, because it's exactly what I need for my personal growth. So imagine that someone offers you your best job. It's your dream job and at ridiculous amounts of money. And they say, but the one thing is, you've got to get up early. We want to see you can get up early and that you don't get annoyed. And that's your two worst things. You get annoyed very easily and you hate getting up early. But then they say to you, look, we've got your dream job for $1 billion a year. But we're just going to check you for a week to see if you're good for the job. How would you get up that week? You'd be up in a second. And then someone would shout at you, you'd be like, fine. You'd miss the bus, you'd be like, so I'll walk today. Once you know you are being watched, and it is a test, and you value the job and the money enough, then you pass the test, because you're like, I see it as dead. Bring it on now. Bring on the test. So I've got a much better reward for you than your dream job. And I'm not even talking religiously, the world to come and stuff. Just it's called self-esteem and happiness and a great life. I'm offering you that. So all you have to do, I have this thing in my home. It's a bit unfair, my kids are a bit small. What would you sell your happiness for? So you lost your toy, and you've got to be very careful with your children because you have to validate their emotions, and especially by age. But at some point when they're a bit older and they're like, why are you fighting over a cookie or whatever? It's like, are you actually willing to sell your happiness for a cookie? Right? Really, I'm not selling my happiness for a cookie. So you see life as a test. Actually, there's a famous story in the Zohar, I'm going to tell it very quickly. There was a king, an amazing, righteous, amazing king, and he had a son, and he wanted the son to be the new king. But to be the new king, you have to have self-control, you have to live up to your values, and you have to understand people. So he sent his son out into the town to go and live with the townspeople, to see what their life was, and then be attracted by all the stuff in the town. And he then hired a prostitute, the most beautiful prostitute in the land, and said, go and test my son. I want you to go and test my son. And he knew his son could stand up to it, but the purpose of the prostitute was to make him stronger. So he was doing fine, and then he was getting a little bit weaker, and she kept coming to seduce him. So the king sent a messenger from the palace, and the messenger said, look, I just want you to know that the prostitute's working for your dad, and it's just a test. Now as soon as he knows that, does it become easier or harder?
Easier.
Much easier. He knows it's a test now. So then it's not even a test. So I just say the Yetzer Hara is the prostitute. Hashem sent the soul down into this world. That's the king sending the son out and to test, because I want the neshama to become great. But then I'm going to send the Yetzer Hara, the prostitute, seducing you. Hey, do this, smoke there, do that. But as soon as you know it's a test, it's like, no way. I'm just not going. So now when my Yetzer Hara says stuff to me, I just laugh at it. I'm like, I really think I'm going to do that? Thanks for coming, man. But then it gets stronger and cleverer. They always go stronger and stronger. The third method is my favorite one, and we'll talk about it a lot more next time we speak. I call it let it flow and let it go. Let it flow. So we're going to talk a lot about emotional balance, but in general, an emotion is different to a thought. Emotions don't have words for a start. Emotions are physical feeling. You can literally feel the energy. You can feel love. You can feel your heart beating. You can feel scared. You can feel it's actually when people get angry, you can feel it rising within you. So at that point, once you feel the emotion arise, you've got three choices. Most people will do the bad ones. Either try and repress it, not angry, it's fine, or they just let it overwhelm them and then build it. The third option is let it flow and let it go. Feel the energy come up. I'm angry, I'm frustrated. You saw that person who annoyed you. Feel the energy, but get ready for it, and then breathe deeply as it comes, and literally let it flow. Now, how do you let it go? Very easy. We're going to talk about this a lot next time. Just don't think. Thinking is like putting wood on the fire. The emotion is a fire. Thoughts are wood. Why did they say that? How dare you? Do you know who I am? If only you're building the fire. Now you can put a blanket on the fire, repress the fire, but then there's little coals. It's going to come up again. Let it flow and let it go. Now it's going to work with the creative state. By the way, if you work on creative state and you see that person, maybe at first you're going to feel it. So let it flow and let it go, and then that's the highest way to really deal with an emotion in a emotionally healthy, balanced way. I'm not repressing the emotion, but I'm not building it. I'm not perpetuating it. I'm feeling it fully. Deep breath. Feel it flow through me. Let it flow. Let it go. Bam. Come out, and then you can do the great step. We're going to speak a lot more about that next time.